Okay, yeah, so it started. So welcome everyone. Nice to see you here. So as you know, like Tableau, Toronto Tableau user group will be held on a monthly basis. So I'm kind of we kind of stick with something like short sessions, very important information. So kind of we're gonna give away like the most important things, and it's gonna be like really short and simple and easy to ingest. So more people can attend and have information about it. I'm just gonna start sharing my screen soon. All right, yeah. Uh, okay, gonna try to switch to presentation mode. Let me know if you can see it or no. Anyway, okay, okay, cool. So today is September 11th. We are glad and super happy to have here a lot of nice and famous speakers today. Um, a little bit of Tableau Toronto user group. So as you know, me, I'm Adrian Zinovey and Roland Schlichting. So we're kind of like co-leaders for the Tableau user group. And a little bit of myself. So today Roland's excuse, so he's on vacation. So I'm the Toronto user group co-leader with Roland, as you know, and uh, for the past like I think like 20 years, I'm a business intelligence consultant. With currently I'm a Tableau consultant, and for the I think I've started working with Tableau like more than 12 years ago. So I have like tons of experience working with this amazing tool, and we just kind of doing whatever my crazy mind is asking. I'm currently a Tableau visionary, and I'm ambassador for the fourth time. So yeah. Um, Also, I'm a Viz for Social Good technical advisor and engaged in multiple other things. And because I become a Tableau public ambassador, so as I stated before, I'm not going to brag about myself. I'm just going to read the facts. Currently, I'm a featured author on Tableau Public. I have a few Viz of the days. Um, Currently, I'm kind of stepping into the top 10 in the world on Tableau Public by the number of followers and favorites. And in Canada, I'm #1 by followers. So again, I'm not bragging about myself. Short introduction about our like amazing team of presenters. So we have Ryan, Maggie, Stephen, and Name apparently. Cover, sorry. I think I didn't send like the right presentation. Anyway, really happy to see you today. So we're gonna have two sessions today. So first session will be held by Ryan, Maggie, and Stephen, and the first session, the second session will be held by Kaur, and super excited. Yeah, I mean like we. And of course, like we're like super happy about having this type of sessions here in Canada. And as you know, like we recently we had this ambassadors in Canada. I think like we have like 14 ambassadors right now in Canada. So we're kind of growing. So, and first of all, like I want to congratulate Ryan on becoming a Tableau public ambassador. So we are really happy to have him. So he was presenting. He's having like amazing design skills, and he's having a great Tableau public profile. So uh, without further ado, so let's. I'm gonna stop sharing, and Ryan, um, on your side.
Great. Yeah, I'll actually start sharing the screen on our
Okay,
end.
so Maggie is starting. Yeah.
Okay, I'm just going to go slideshow. Oh, sorry. Second. Sorry,
sneak
I'm
peek
just
into
zipping
the.
through. Yeah, I'm just zipping through the first half of that presentation. There we go. Can you guys see now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great.
Awesome. Yeah. So obviously happy to be here today. Yeah, we couldn't be happier to be here. Thank you for the 50 participants that are here. Yeah, really appreciate you taking the time, especially during if you're in Toronto and during your lunch hour. So thank you, thank you. So for today, our presentation that we wanted to give was around crafting a golden data viz. And so the subline, applying a design approach in an award-winning visualization. So yeah, I'll just dive right into it. And so it will make more sense as I go on. So Maggie. Awesome. So in short, so Maggie, myself, and Ryan, we won this competition called the Deloitte Viz Games. I'll get more into that in a sec, but yeah, we can here with our wonderful blocks of wood as prizes. We have Ryan on the left, who will speak about development and who is our main sort of Tableau dev extraordinaire, as you know, because he's now Tableau public ambassador. So again, congrats. We also have our wonderful design extraordinary, Maggie Eng. Yeah, wonderful designer on our team, one of the best, if not the best. And then, of course, you have me. I was big on the story and crafting the story, as well as doing any sort of, nitty gritty ad hoc things to do, like finding the data and so forth. So, yeah. Well, next slide, if you don't mind, Maggie. So now, what is the Deloitte Viz Games? And so overall, the competition as a whole it's basically an annual competition for focusing on data visualization across the entirety of Deloitte. So it's a global competition, which makes it really interesting to see different skill levels and different how people approach the problem, or I guess approach the competition. So there was people from all around the world, like I said, over 600 participants. People could form in teams as well as yeah, single as well. And over 38 countries participated in the competition. And the competition this year, which really excited us as sports fans and just general, competitive people. The theme this year was around the Olympics. So that was really exciting. And so yeah, it was exciting to get that going. And I guess next slide. Slow to move. So essentially, with that theme, then we basically had to come up with a story around to showcase anything around the Olympics. And so some of the judging criteria around that was ensuring we had a good design. So how appropriate was that design for the story being told? Was the story good? Was there a clear story being told, and a question being explored and answered? And then how good was our analysis? How sophisticated was it? Was it appropriate for the data that we had, as well as did it support the story that we were being told? And so for the general competition overview, we did have about 1 month to design everything and develop everything. So yeah, from the 7th of February to March 3rd. And then the final four were selected, and we basically had a week or two to come up with a presentation that lasted about 8 or 10 minutes on March 21st as well. And so it sort of was in those two parts. So obviously, just to get into the final four was important, but ultimately to really wow everyone, you had to have a good presentation. And we'll go to the next slide as well. And so overall, how we approached it was, one, we wanted to make sure we decided on the overall story, on what we really wanted to tell, and we'll go into that later. And then ultimately, we had to make sure that we had that data to support the said story, because ultimately, if you don't have the right data, to tell that story, there's gonna be a disconnect, and you can't really tell it. And then, of course, now how are we going to tell that story? We need some design to make a wireframe, yeah, to make the wireframe and ensure that the dashboard looked great. It could convey that story easily and effectively. And then once that's finalized, we go to development, and Ryan executes, makes it beautiful, and makes it come to life. And so we'll go to the next slide. And so on that note, before we did anything in terms of crafting the story, we really wanted to know our audience. Because we do think, regardless of whether it's a client project or whether it's, you know, this competition, which was for fun, we want to know who our audience is, and we want to make sure that we can resonate with them. And so we didn't know exactly who it was. We have the names here, but during the at the beginning of at the competition, excuse me, we just knew that, okay, we'd have a couple people from Tableau. So in this case, it was Larissa Amoroso and Southard Jones. And we also knew we would have someone from the IOC, which was Chris Payne in this instance. And then we also had a Viz Analytics leader from Deloitte, funnily enough, part of our team, Stefan Popowitz. And so with that in mind, we really we understood there are these different people and what mattered to them was different. So for example, like Larissa and Chris, we want to ensure that, okay, we wanted to focus on the Olympics, make sure that it was a really positive story and, you know, that would be really moving and that could resonate with people. From Stefan's perspective, we wanted to make sure that the visual analytics best practices and like in design and development were really showcased. And then of course, lastly, like with Southard, as he's the chief product officer, we knew that it was important to showcase some Tableau features and, you know, show off the tool in general. And so, yeah. And so then with all that in mind, ultimately the final story approach that we really wanted to do was, again, it had to be positive and it had to be impactful and had to resonate with as many people as possible. And again, it was an iterative process. I'm not going to say I just came up like we came up with this, you know, with a snap of a finger. But ultimately, what we wanted to do was that show that the Olympics in Paris 2024 was a positive change. And I really wanted to go with the torch symbolism to sort of show that, you know, as a flame, as a light is usually just a symbol for change and for positive change. So really ran with that across the whole visual. And so how we wanted to show that positive change, excuse me, was to showcase different sort of social issues and that the Paris 2024 Olympics was highlighting and really focusing on. Have an athlete that sort of impacted that social issue or represented that social issue as a whole and sort of progressed it going forward, and then ultimately showcase how the IOC and how Paris is addressing that social issue. And we'll go into the visual, of course, later and some examples of how we did that. But that was the overall sort of story approach there. Go to the next slide. Now, of course, so with that story sort of laid out, and again, iterative process in terms of the story as well as the data, ultimately, you know, it was a big part of the project to, you know, really find that data that could support that story. And so there was definitely times where, you know, we wanted to ensure that, um, you know, we basically couldn't find the data, and we had to sort of go back and find different pieces of data to tell that story still. So yeah, don't ever think it's just, oh, we just found it and it was easy. It's just, no, sometimes it's just it's iteration and ensuring that we have the right sort of ingredients to tell that story, or, you know, to sort of cook that meal, as I like to say. So we used a lot of different thing like open source data, let's say from like Olympedia, as well as Essential Sierra Snow Laboratory. That's really niche, but we used it for one of our visuals, and a whole bunch of sources as well, like news articles and reports and publications as well, like from the IOC themselves. So yeah.
Great. Thank you, Stephen. And then just now moving to the design approach. So essentially, now after we've got, and then sticking to Stephen's analogy around a recipe or ingredients, like once we've got all the ingredients, understanding the structure of how we want it to tell our story, plus all the data, how do we put that all together visually? And what you see on screen is essentially how that all the story, as well as all the information and data points are reflected in that visual. So here, this is just a screenshot of one of the 5 sections or one of the 5 stories that we have in our viz. And for every section, there's essentially 2 tabs or 2 pages to each section. So what you see on the left side is the first view, so the first tab. And this is where we would have that athlete that we're trying to highlight on the left side with their accomplished listed out, followed by the social issue that athlete has impacted or represents on the right side presented in some sort of graph or a data point. And then on the right side for this first tab, it's really a focus on that given social issue that we're trying to tell our story with. So we would have the social issue for that first tab. And then in the second view here is really focusing on how the IOC and the Paris Olympics have addressed that social issue. So in this case here, just to walk you through this section, it's really Nawal El Mutawakil, who's our athlete. The social issue that she represents is gender equality, and then how the IOC and the Paris Olympics have addressed that social issue in that second view. Okay, so I'm actually going to stop sharing the presentation and actually jump into our Figma file to give you a rundown on the different design assets that were created for this viz. Just double checking everyone can see the Figma file. Yeah, okay. So I'm just gonna zoom out a bit. And so what you see on screen here is an entire screenshot of the viz in its entirety. So in terms of the process of doing the design is first creating a wireframe. And so this is actually a static wireframe of the entire viz with all of the different design elements put together. As I was designing it, there's just a few things I want to highlight. Was I did Google up like what the IOC color palette was, and it was pretty easy to find. So that, of course, you can see that's been consistently used across the entire viz, knowing that we were, as part of our audience, we were trying to design for representatives of the IOC and, of course, out the Olympics. And then a few other design best practices I just want to bring up, or principles, is like use of negative space. So, and that plays into making sure that there's the right balance across all our different visual elements. So around using the graphics, implementing text into our viz, as well as how many graphs we want to include. So the rule of thumb that we had for our viz is for essentially each view that we have, we're looking at 2 graphs at a time, just so we don't clutter or distract our viewers. And then you'll also notice that we have a consistent use of text or font, essentially, across, with a very consistent use of hierarchy. So making sure that all our headers are the same size, subheaders are the same size, as well as our text are the same size across the entire viz. And then there's a consistent layout. This was something that was highly considered while I was designing, was knowing how much information and how extensive our story was, because we were doing essentially showcasing 5 athletes, 5 social issues, 5 stories put together. So I really wanted to make sure that each of the 5 sections, the 5 stories, were very consistent in terms of the layout, so that it was fairly easy for our audience to jump from one story to the next, because it follows visually that exact same flow from one page over to the next page, or the first tab over to the second tab. And then just after I had essentially created this first static wireframe of the entire viz in its entirety, I then worked with Ryan, who was on dev, to figure out how can we now that we have all our ingredients in one place put together, how can we now break it up to actually do the execution of the development. So we had a lot of back and forth in terms of how to do that. And essentially the way that we've aligned in terms of breaking it up is having one main background, having the tabs a different piece. We do have a user guide overlay as well as part of our viz. And we have a couple charts where there's the option to actually expand the chart. So what does that piece looks like, or that layer looks like? That becomes that third layer. And then all of the charts that are natively built in Tableau, as well as any instances where we would have interactive buttons or buttons that would link you to resources or other sources, that was on top, that very top layer of the development. And so I'm just going to back up a bit, and that's how you can see all the different elements and design pieces were separated into separate pieces and then put together in Dev with Ryan. So I'm going to stop sharing here, and then I'll pass it back to Ryan to start sharing and talk about the development approach.
Yeah, thanks, Maggie. I want to mention before I go into it is really emphasizing the iterations between design and development. Like that was probably a good week or half a week, like just going back and forth with Maggie on what are the possibilities, how can we do this in Tableau. So it was important to build that in, whether you're doing creative viz or even just a business focused dashboard. Is that those iterations between design and development. Before I even got into Tableau and started building this, I really had to think about what features were available to bring the design to life. As Maggie went through there, we knew what we wanted to do in terms of the interactivity and the layering. And I really had to think about, which features can enable that. Of course, there are many different features in Tableau, and these were the four main ones that I decided to go with to build the interactivity into our viz. So the first was parameter actions. For all of the different selections that users make, we have a different parameter, and the selection is captured in an action. And then that's related very closely to the dynamic zone visibility. So content is shown or hidden based on what is selected by a user in the parameters. Dynamic zone visibility was a newish feature early this year, so we wanted to take the opportunity to incorporate it in our viz. And then the last two, embedded media and expandable containers, pop up throughout the viz. So we have videos for each of the 5 athletes to really bring their story to life. And those are within dynamic zones. We've embedded videos, and expandable containers we use for our resource list at the very end of the viz. Okay, so these are the 4 main features, and I'll show you now what the interactivity looks like in Tableau Public, and then I'll go into desktop to go kind of behind the scenes there. So in Tableau Public, I'll just focus on the one athlete. So Nawal El-Wakil and gender equality. Just want to confirm, can you see the... Can you see Tableau Public right now, or are you seeing the presentation?
We're still seeing the presentation.
Okay, I have to reshare. So entire screen, right. Okay, so in Tableau Public, again, I'll just focus on the first athlete, which is Nawal and gender equality. So the main piece of interaction here is the tabbing. So at the very top, we have the first tab, which is how the issue relates to the athlete. And then the user can navigate to the second tab, gender equality in Paris 2024, by clicking on it. And then that updates the content that's shown on the page. So the user can go back and forth between the two. And then for a couple athletes, we have an expand option on the first visual that's shown. So we were working with, certain limitations in terms of size on the dashboard. And that meant that some charts had to be smaller, but we offered a functionality here for the user to click on an expand icon that pops up the chart in a bigger window, so the user can really focus in on a particular data point, and then they can also collapse it as well. So we've done this in a couple places on the viz. And then we also have, as I mentioned, the videos. So on the video icon, user can click that, which expands a window to play a YouTube video on the athlete. And then the last piece of functionality is the buttons, or the expand collapse container, which is here. And this is the only collapsible container on the viz, but it shows a resource list if anyone is interested in that. Okay. So a lot of that functionality is driven by parameter actions, dynamic zone visibility, and I've shown it for one athlete, but this is replicated across all of the other 5 athlete and stories in the viz. So now I'll go into Tableau Desktop and really dig into what this looks like here. So a couple of things to mention at the start. Number one is whenever you're doing layering in Tableau, it's really hard to use containers. So tiled containers do not exist in the dashboard. It's all floating, just to really allow us to layer these different elements on top of each other. And as you can see on the left, there's a ton of sheets in this dashboard. So very important, at least I found, for me to come up with a system to tag these different sheets. So we have 5 athletes, we have 5 stories. So I gave each one an ID, A1 through to A5, and that helped me really just stay more organized when layering things and assigning everything to where it needed to be. So if I go into the layout pane here on the dashboard, you can really start to see what's happening. So at the very bottom of the hierarchy, we have this background image. So in Maggie's Figma file there, this was the image that contained, this is the image at the very top, which contained all of the copy, all of the graphical elements, everything that's in the very back is in this background image. So that's the very base of the dashboard. And then we layer everything, we stack everything on top of that. So again, just focusing on the first athlete from the wall. So this is, in my tagging system, this is A1. You can see all of those components here. So the tab 1 and tab 2 layers, these are the two that you can flip between in the tabs. And then on top of that are all of the Tableau native components. So all of the buttons, all of the charts, all of those interactive elements are on top of it. So that's kind of here a 2v2 to A1v1 small. And then for this athlete, we do have an expand option, so that sits on top. So that layering is replicated for each of the 5 athletes, and as you see here, they're all stacked on top of each other in the layout. They're not, again, this dashboard is almost at the very max, so it's 9,900 pixels wide. So they're all spread out across the entire width of the visualization. Okay, so how does the interactivity actually work? So there's 3 things that are very important here. Number 1 is the parameter. Number 2 is the calculated field, which is linked to the parameter, the value in the parameter selected. And then the third is the dynamic zone. So taking that calculations and plugging it into the dynamic zone to work with the parameter action. Okay. So showing you an example of how this works. And I'll show you the example of tabbing between the 2 tabs here. So for every selection on the dashboard, we have a parameter, and I'm showing you that here on the left-hand side. So you'll see A1 tab selection. We have different parameters for every athlete. For the expand and collapse, you have a different parameter as well. And this is basically a binary parameter that is 0 or 1. So depending on what the value in that parameter is, it is tied to 2 binary calculated fields. So you see A1 tab selection, and we have 2 true false fields here, tab 1 selected, tab 2 selected. So these basically say, based on whatever value is in the parameter, set this to true or set this to false. So A1 tab selection is when it's 1. A1 tab 2 selected is when it's 0. So those calculated fields are what really drives the dynamic zone, because we have a parameter action here to set that parameter to either 0 or 1. In this sheet, which is the buttons that are actually clicked on in the viz, you can't see anything here because they are transparent shapes. There are 2 transparent shapes here, and on the detail mark here, I have a 0 or a 1. So the parameter action in the dashboard sets the A1 tab selection parameter to either 0 or 1, depending on whatever is selected. And I'll show you this here just to kind of show you the full story of what's going on behind the scenes. A ton of actions in this dashboard, as you can see here, but I'll zoom into one which is the tab selection. So you see it's using the button sheet. It's, sorry, that's the wrong parameter. Even I've sort of losing track of what's here. I think that's the right one. Sorry, I can't seem to find that action, but essentially the parameter would set, or the parameter action would set that tab 1 parameter to either 0 or 1, depending on what field is selected. And then as you see, the background image is controlled by the calculated field. So at the top left here, control visibility using value. That binary calculated field is put in here. So right now, tab 1 is selected. This is showing, and this chart here as well has that same calculated field. If I switch to the second tab, you'll see the background image that's showing uses the alternative calculated field, and the same with this chart here. Okay. So hopefully that gives you a bit of a understanding of how the dynamic zones were set up to enable this kind of tabbing functionality. Really is powerful, and we did it at scale here. And one of my learnings doing this is really staying organized in terms of your parameters, your calculations, and your actions. Really helps speed things up, and you can stay on top of those elements. So we'll go back to the deck just to close off our session. So in terms of takeaways from our whole kind of end-to-end process in building this viz for Deloitte Viz Games, first thing is knowing your audience. Stephen mentioned we built this to really speak to the different judges that were on the panel, and then also coming up with a story that would resonate with the users of our viz. So knowing your audience, whether it's for creative viz, whether it's for business focused viz, always good to think about who your users are. Crafting your story with the appropriate data. As Steve mentioned, there will always be a disconnect if your data doesn't support your story. The third, design best practices. Always want to make information easy to consume for your users, and following design best practices is very important for that. And lastly, understanding Tableau capability. So this really speaks to that iterative process between design and development. You want to know what the tool can do and have that inform your design. So always keeping that iterative nature between design and development is important for that. Okay. So those are our takeaways from the process that we went through to develop this viz. Again, really hope you can apply some of these to your work. This was a creative viz that we built, and you wouldn't develop something like this for your business dashboards, but definitely these learnings can be applied to the work that you do day to day. We do have some resources here, both for design and development, that are useful to look at if you're interested in these topics a bit more. So they're linked here, and I think Adrian, I'm not sure if you'll be sharing the deck out, but we can give you these links to send out as well.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think we're going to be sharing with the people the presentation even today or tomorrow, likely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think this was amazing. Yeah, thank you so much, Ryan and the team, Maggie, Stephen. This was amazing. So again, you guys won a global competition. It was just not like I would say like local one, And I can see like a lot of thoughts and the design and so on. So I think there were some questions about the dynamic visibility, but I think you covered them. And I think everyone's more than welcome to download the dashboard and try to understand what's going on in Ryan's head when he designed that complex stuff, and especially like applying so many like Boolean parameters and so on. So yeah, this was amazing. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah. Okay, can I share my screen? Just really quick. Yeah. So the next one is Kamaljit Kaur. So she's a senior analytics consultant, and she just started her new gig at Tiger Analytics. So congratulations, Kaur, with the new job. And about Kaur, what I can say is like she's having really good Tableau public profile. She's really enthusiastic and usual attendee at the Toronto Tableau user group, and she's making a lot of noise on the LinkedIn and so on. So she's really good, yeah, in the design and analytics. So without further ado, so I'm just gonna, if you can start sharing your screen.
Thank you, Adrian. I'll just share my screen. Let me know once it is up.
Oh yeah, we can see it.
Okay, so thank you, Adrian, for the introduction. The great presentation. I love the color theme, the Paris theme. A lot of takeaways and learning in terms of dynamic zone visibility, calculations, parameter actions. Now let's move towards this presentation. So the topic of my presentation is performance by design, which is streamlining efficiency in Tableau dashboard. We are going to see how fast we can go with performance. Adrian has already given my introduction. I have recently joined Tiger Analytics. I have 5+ year of experience working in data analytics field, very closely working with enterprise customer of various domains, CPG, retail, banking, telecommunication, etc., and transforming complex data into visual insights. I do have Tableau public presence. In my leisure time, I like sketching, traveling. I'm a sport person. I like playing badminton and table tennis. Okay, the session takeaway would be we'll get to know how to deliver answer fast with good performance, and we'll see how engaging and efficient dashboards look like. Now, before that, let's check an amazing business dashboard. This is Tableau Public. You can publish your own creative dashboards here. This is a free app. You see trending dashboards. There's a whiz of the day. You sign in. Okay, once I'm signed into my profile, you can see a couple of dashboards I have already published. I usually participate in Makeover Mondays and business dashboards. For this presentation, there's another business dashboard I have referred. Okay. This might take some loading time, which is not usually a first good impression, right? So this might happen when you are publishing your dashboard onto your server or online cloud, and when your end consumer are sitting on the other end. So how long will this take? Well, that depends upon how we have created the dashboard. So people who are getting FOMO of, you're missing on some good business dashboard. No, you are not. That was something which was intentionally done. You can go on Tableau Public, uh, type in the sales business dashboard or any business dashboard you're looking for. You'll get great templates. There are also a couple of initiatives taken by Data Fam team, like Data Plus Movie, Data Plus TV, and data for social good. So go and explore that part. Now let's talk here design and performance. So performance is correlated, or design choices are correlated to performance. Whenever you design a dashboard or whenever you lay out any workbook designs, keep performance as your primary thought. Performance is not an afterthought. So there's no single recommendation or single bullet point which I can suggest. There's a testing you have to do at your side. You have to you have to check and see what works best for you. Now, I'm going to use words like avoid, minimize, or reduce. It does not mean you should not use, right? But you should find a balance between what is working best for you. There's a recommendation, assuming that you have met the technical recommendation, which is told by, or it's written on the official website on Tableau. Regarding Tableau Prep, desktop or server, Tableau Online is usually taken by Tableau people. So for like Tableau server, you need to have 8 physical cores, 16 vCPU, and for Tableau desktop, it's Intel i7. So having those already in place, then we can move ahead. So what do I mean by efficiency and what are its benefits? Number one, obviously the speed. We are talking about speed. Second, it's the data discovery. you should give flexibility to end user to do a data discovery so that they are able to find their own answers. It should not be rigid. It should not be hard coded just for the sake of performance, right? So user experience also matters a lot. Simple, obviously your workbook business, I'm talking about business dashboard, it should be simple, it should be understandable. At the same time, whenever as a developer you create a calculation, right, or the, let us say, nested calculation, don't make it very complex. Don't put everything in one single calculation. Make sure that there's a proper spacing. You write comments. So whenever, if somebody is catching your work, if you leave the organization or somebody is catching your work, they're able to understand what you have created and how you have created in a much simpler way. Okay. Now, very important question is why my workbook is slow, right? I understood the performance is important. I understood the efficiency is important, but what are the reasons that it can go slow? To understand that, we need to understand the science behind it. If your data sources are slow, it's going to be slow in Tableau desktop. If your data sources are not optimized, the storage is not great, the compute power is not so strong. So it's going to be slow on Tableau desktop. And if it's slow on Tableau desktop, it's most likely to be slow on Tableau server. Most of us, or people like me, usually before was under the assumption that Tableau server has huge 8-core machine, right? But we should know that apart from holding those extracts and workbooks, it also is used to do a lot of user management stuff, which is row level security, managing a lot of nodes like visql node, backgrounder node, and a different thing like load balancer and etc. So a lot of work is there already on the shoulders of Tableau server. So we should keep that in mind. Newer is generally better. Now we know that Tableau releases a lot of, with every new version, it comes with a lot of improvement functionalities or new features or AI, everything, right? So newer will be generally better. Less is more and simple is fast. It's very easy to understand. Roadmap to good performance. I have divided this entire roadmap into 3 parts from left to right. We are going to talk about data layer, which is connecting Tableau desktop to the data layer, to the data sources. Generally, if it's one consolidated data source, it's better instead of connecting to multiple data source when we talk about the performance. Second is visualization layer when we build the workbook, right? From starting with sheet number 1 to building the entire workbook with storylines. We're going to talk more about it. Third is publishing layer. When we publish these workbooks onto the Tableau server or online, what are the things we should keep in mind for having a good performance? Okay, number 1 rule or the golden rule when you connect your Tableau desktop to your data is limit your data. As Ryan was mentioning that, you should know your audience. So understand the business requirements, stick with this, sit with the stakeholders on what necessary data is required to build that particular dashboard. For example, if it's a sales dashboard, pull only necessary sales data. If your stakeholder says that, okay, I need sales data, but I need 5 years data, see if you can reduce the data, first of all, within years as well. But if they need to do an historical analysis, check if you can aggregate data up to years level or month level or so on, in terms to have a limited data to be used. It's the first thing we can keep in mind. Second, explore more at data layer. You can do more things. Number 1, move complexity to the data source layer, right? If you're using complex calculations, if you're using complex join, if those things can be handled by data team or database team, then give it to them. That's fine. Don't forget about Tableau Prep. Tableau Prep was introduced for the purpose of cleaning, massaging, doing all those complicated joins and relationships. So you can divide the work into, your cleaning part to Tableau Prep and your viz and exploring part, data part to Tableau Desktop. Now choose wisely between extract and live. These are 2 connections which you make while you make a connection of Tableau, like of Tableau desktop to your data sources. Live is a direct connection which you make. Extract is the, snapshot of the data source in the compressed Tableau format, its own optimized storage, right? Now, extracts are generally better. With an extract, now, because these are snapshot, it has to be refreshed, right? There are 2 type of refreshes. One is incremental, second is full refresh. Incremental, only new data which is coming in the data source would be updated. Now, generally go frequent incremental refreshes, however your business requirements suggest. Second, full refresh, make it once a week or whenever your load on the Tableau server is less, you can go and choose accordingly. Hide all unused fields. Now on the right hand side, what you see there are different segments I have highlighted. This you should do once you have created the workbook. This is something you should do afterwards, because if you do in the starting, all the fields would be hide. You won't be able to see anything. So after creating the workbook, select this option. It's going to make it more cleaner, and the size would be more better, and the performance would be more optimized. Aggregate and roll up, we already discussed. Make sure you can, to whatever level you can aggregate, try to do it. Wisely use custom SQL. Now, working with the customer, this is something very important. I've seen, the team using the traditional custom SQL, directly copy pasting the entire SQL in Tableau desktop, whereas Tableau can handle those custom SQL, but it is not necessary to do everything on, just copy pasting on Tableau. You can trust on Tableau with few of the things. You can see what you can reduce from that custom SQL. Try not to use cast or group by or sorting, or uh, even with joins. Tableau can do that very easily on desktop, right? So see how you can minimize the query, use less complicated queries here. Okay, very important point or topic again, which is like ranking based upon the speed, how we connect to databases. Blending slows down the workbook. It queries the two different databases at the source level, right? And with whatever linkage you define. If that linkage is high cardinality, high granularity, then it's going to slow down your workbook. And then it's blend on the left outer join. Okay, data source, two databases at the data source level with whatever join conditions you have defined. Now joins are of like 3-4 types: inner join, left join, right join, full outer join. This is how it should be placed in terms of performance. I'm not going to go deeper in terms of explaining it, but inner joins are the best, which pull out the common data among both of the table, right? Unlike joins, which do join at the database level, relationship does not join the database at the database level, or at the logical level. It keeps the two data separated. Hence, there's no such things of a big table or the data load. Whenever a user who is querying particular data, based upon that query, the Tableau will pick up the related attributes or the columns from the table, right? So it does not join. You can also define referential integrity, or which is like equals to join culling. That means it only pulls the data which is required. Other tables are not disturbed. Okay, let's moving towards the visualization layer. As said, I'm going to divide it into sheet and dashboard. Sheet, now what you see on the screen is very interesting. Two different way of looking one thing. One is visual, one is text, or you can assume this to be as text table. If you're like me, an average person take 1/10 of a second to understand a visual, 60 seconds and more to read 200 to 250 words, which is like usually more. So the idea is you should always create more visuals so that it's grab more attention, right? And it's easy to read. That's the idea of creating a dashboard. On a sheet level, reduce the marks on a sheet, right? There's no benchmark of what is the minimum marks you should use, but lesser the better, okay? Here we have 1800 marks. Now, while creating, even I have on, while using Tableau Public, while creating polygon marks and, making all those curved lines, you end up creating more than 1 lakh marks as well. But when you talk about business perspective or business dashboard, try to reduce this. Understanding filters ranking. So there's also a ranking in filters. Extract filters are when you create an extract, right? Those are the filters which run on your Tableau extract. We have already shown the snapshot earlier. Then they are data source filter. If you're using live or extract, when it's connect to your database, those are the level of filters you can apply. Third is context filter. Initially, when I was also working with context filter, the Tableau was using temp tables. It used to create the temp tables, right? And which used to act as a base for all the filters. Now, whenever you change the filter, for an example, if I use country on a context filter, right? And if I'm changing US to Canada or Canada to US, the temp table, the previous temp table will drop and the new temp table would be created. But now Tableau does not use that particular temp table thing. It uses subquery. Now it's okay, and it's very good to use context filter to optimize the performance. Then you have action filter and quick filter. I'm going to talk more about this in later slides. Okay. Generally talking about filter, this is very interesting. And even I realized it. I was making a couple of mistakes while using filter. add apply button, right? Reason being, if you're not using apply button and if you click all the filters, or if you're playing around with what to choose, Tableau has to render all the fields from the database, right? It's a query again. So idea is to send as less query as possible to the database, and which are very, not very heavy. So when you click on apply, so once you select what all you need, then apply is implemented or applicable, or then only it hit the database. And make sure you're not applying your filter to all workbooks, to all worksheets, to everything. Make sure it's to the relevant data which you want, right? Only relevant values. This is also one thing you should keep in mind. It's good to have. I have used it a lot, but it has performance impact. When you say all relevant values to all the filters, what happen is whenever you change one filter, apart from the sheet, all the filters are also getting impacted. So those many queries will run, and it will increase the performance issue. In terms of high cardinality filter, again, use the filters which, like something like category, region, or country. Do not use filters. Try to avoid filters on cities or on order ID or customer ID, because they're going to again pull a lot of data. These are the fast filter. Custom value list and wildcard match. Now there are reason for this. Custom value list is when user manually type in those value. For example, if you want to choose something from color, right, red or blue, let us say. So what Tableau is doing, Tableau is writing a SQL query at the backend, which is using in operator. So color in red or blue, right? In wildcard match, the Tableau is using like operator at the backend, which is easy to search. So it has only two values to search the entire database. Instead of using these slow values, which would be the slowest filter would be your multiple value list and your single value list, which pulled on all the data for those filters. That was one interesting factor which I found out while working with filters. Calculations again has a lot of impact. Try to see if you can move complicated calculation to the database layer. Materialize your calculation if you're creating in Tableau. If you're using extract, there's an option where you can keep or push all those calculation to the extract, right? You can do that. Reduce the granularity of calculations, which is while working with LODs and table calculations, see what work best for you. Usually LODs have less performance than table calculations. So it's on you. It's on you if you want to compromise functionality, in terms of speed, or the speed is more important to you in terms of functionality. So that's your choice. That's your business option you can take. Avoid nested calculation. Choose case statements for complex calculations. It's faster than if. Reason being, when the Tableau compute your if statement, right? If this, then this, if else if, then this. At the backend, it's still writing a case statement. So case statements are generally faster than if statements, if you can write in few scenarios. Even in else if, there's a one more slide on detail on else if part. Replace count distinct. It's an expensive calculation. It's complicated than just counting those records or summing those values. Tableau has to check, the system has to check each and every record and compare it with another value. If it has seen that value previously in the system, then group it up and sum it up. So a lot of processing memories take place. So see if you can replace it with this count or any other thing. This is a speed ranking. Integer are your best friends, then Boolean state string. Use max and min instead of average or ATTR wherever possible. If you cannot replace it, there's no other option. But if you can, you should. Reason, average contains two calculation. One is sum divided by count. Again, it's going to hit two queries. ATTR is also a set of two calculation, which is maximum of something. If that is equals to minimum of the same thing, then that value should come up. Otherwise, it is asterisk. That's the calculation behind the ATTR. So it's using both man and mix. So if the same answer is coming from just using max or min, then why not use that, right? Now, else if is faster than else space if. I'm not going to go in very much detail because it's the calculation level thing, but you should know what happens at the backend, how Tableau computes else if and else space if. There's one case statement on else if, right? But in else space if, there are two case statements. Reason being, there's a else and then the space if, two ifs are used here. So it's going to take more of, more two queries are being shoot it at the database level. In versus or, in is better. It got introduced in Tableau 2023. Why? Category in technology or furniture. So it's a one simple query. It's going to run one query and it's a bucket thing, right? Or category equals to furniture or category it's equals to technology. What happened is there are two queries. Techno is first of all, it's going to search for category furniture, then it's going to search for category technology, and then it's going to see if the values are there. So in terms of performance, if the answers are coming same, this is what you should choose. There are other options you can keep in mind. Minimize the size of images, that's obvious. Transparent PNGs instead of JPGs, because it's going to save your background space. Avoid polygon marks, we have already discussed about this. Consider using text formatting instead of calculation. Try to see how you can minimize the number of calculation you're using in your Tableau desktop. This is one of the way. Visualization layer on dashboard level, avoid scrolling, avoid having too many views, try to have more better user experience. Go for a fixed dashboard size. Choose common dashboard size which usually you want to work with. Go for fixed size because it's going to maximize the cache. If you use automatic size based upon the every screen that dashboard is being opened, it's going to take consumer different screen size altogether. So you are not able to share those cache, right? So that's one way. Apply necessary filters even at the dashboard level. Make sure only necessary filters are up there. Avoid global filter. Just not do everything for one filter for everything, as already discussed. Hide worksheet until needed. Make it more cleaner. Make it more user friendly. Action versus quick filters. As said, multiple benefits of using action filter. It makes more clean. You can use that space. They are action driven, whereas your quick filters hit the database all the time when you have to pull all the data. So I think you can do more detailed understanding. I have also mentioned a couple of references I have used to create this presentation. You can refer that. Reduce number of sheets and build cleaner dashboard. A lot of things, it's giving same analysis, but a lot of things has changed from left dashboard to right dashboard. See, borders are not there. The background is a bit light so that your charts pop out. There's a min and max highlighted, not everything. The colors are limited. On the left hand side, all like different colors are highlighted. Even with numbers, try to see only if you can add minimum or maximum, like you have Jan and December, but on the left hand side, all months are highlighted. Few things to keep in mind. Right side looks so neater, so optimized, user friendly. And for filters, there's a button here. If you see, a small icon is used. When you click on it, the filter options will come down. Show and hide views. This is one more thing at dashboard level. While you create, you can always go for some sheets, you need not to show at the first place. What this would help is the show and hide view. Whenever you're publishing this to Tableau server, the initial load time is reduced because you're not actually showing all the sheets, right? So it's more faster than publishing all the sheets at once. Now, at publishing layer, when you are publishing your dashboards to server or online, try to have a neat dashboard. Try to disable show tabs which are not used, hide unneeded sheets, right? Now, in terms of performance, embedded data source are faster than publishing your data source before and then using Tableau workbooks because the extract is near to your visualization. You can also enable cache at the server level. More the cache used, more the better user experience. It's going to hit the cache first and then it's going to pull out the results, which is much faster. Now, if you're like me, I love using or I have used row level security mostly for my business stakeholders because they all have different segments. Even it's the same dashboard, but let us say it's a regional manager or it's a national manager, right? Based upon their requirement, the dashboard would change automatically, but great power comes with great responsibility. Row level security also have performance implication. It won't be able to use cache again. Even though it's the same dashboard, everything is same, but if it's a row level security, we won't be able to share cache, right? Upgrade to latest version. As already said, newer is better. Use workbook optimizer. Now, before publishing, there are few suggestions which Tableau suggests you that something needs to be reviewed, something needs, if it's done or it's approved. So those are things are also there you can do. Now, what is next? Till now, These were the performance matrices or design elements you should keep in mind before publishing it. But if you already have created a workbook, right, what you can do is you can do a quick performance test. Going on help, setting in performance, start performance recording. Uh, what would happen is you would not see anything once you click on start performance recording. You interact with few elements and then you close performance recording, right? Stop performance recording. Tableau will give you a different workbook altogether with all those analysis which would be done, right? You'll be able to understand what time it took to execute a query, what compilation query, what time it took to compile the query. These two are two different things. Geocoding is when you add a geographic role to a city, your places are converted into Latin longs. So that's also an additional thing which Tableau is doing. How much time is taking that? Layout computation, blending, and so on. So a lot of thing happens. You can check it what takes a lot of time. More tools to explore. Now, after this also, there are further tools. If the performance is still not great, you can check log files, which is in my Tableau repository. You can bring those file in your Tableau desktop, or there's a front-end application, which is Tableau Log Viewer. You can check for the tags like begin query, or there would be some time written that this is how much it took. So you can work and check with that. You can do some troubleshooting. There's a Logshark, which is a free tool at Git, which also show you the load stat. So it's going to pull up 10 different workbooks based upon ranking, which is like most slow and then to the fast, right? So it's a opposite rank in that way. I have used mostly server status, which is actually on Tableau server, which gives these are pre-built Tableau dashboards, which helps you to understand which are the most frequent open workbooks, which workbooks have traffic to views, data sources, space usage, stats for load time. So a lot is here, which you can explore at first hand from your side. Sometimes it's not a workbook issue or it's not a server issue. Sometimes it's a network issue. So there are applications like Fiddler, which you can use to understand if it's a network problem altogether. There are other applications, so there are more you can explore. These are top. Tabmon, also this is available on Git. You can check it's for your server cluster understanding, load balancer, memory, CPU utilization, and all. These are references taken. A lot, I would say. Basically, the best help book is Designing Efficient Workbook, which is by Tableau itself. It's a huge 64 pages PDF. Go through each one of them, whichever point or topic you want to understand in detail, which we have discussed it today. You can go it. I'm just also watching the time by side, so I just rushed through a few topics, but it's fine. So thank you, Data Fam. Thank you, Tug, Adrian, and group for giving me this opportunity and presenting my topic with everyone.
Oh
So
yeah,
that's
this was amazing. Yeah, this was amazing. I didn't expect you to have such a technical expertise. By the way, this was amazing. Yeah. I mean, like talking about cache and all this stuff. So, can I ask like a few questions? There's some questions. So, somebody's asking if it matters if you're using custom SQL for an extract, or like a simple extract, or SQL custom script extract.
right. So you can use custom SQL with both, even with extract and even with live. If you're using extract, custom SQL still works fine. But if you're using live, because now it's going to use whatever your computer storage power of your data source. So custom SQL itself takes a lot of time if they are complicated, SQLs, because what usually people or traditional practice was they used to copy paste their queries, right? And it's a huge query. So you
Yeah.
read those SQL, see what I can use it, which is necessary, I cannot change, and the other part to do it in Tableau. That's the idea. So
Oh
trust
yeah. Yeah.
Tableau
Agree.
in some process, because the relationship is there in Tableau, but I'm not sure if it's there in SQL, which saves a lot of time.
Yeah. Nice. I agree. Yeah. And next, last one. Somebody's asking about the role level security if it's working with extract data.
Yes, it does work with extract data.
Yeah,
Extract is a
for sure.
type of connection you are making with data source. It has nothing to do apart from it. If your database is very well storage compute, and if your requirement is real time, like live streaming, something is happening, right, which is very live, then go with live. Otherwise, you can go with extract. If it's needed once, refresh once a day, or your data refresh, twice a day, then don't go for live. Go for extract.
Oh yeah, amazing. Yeah. Okay, guys. I think that's pretty much it for today. So I'm really happy that you guys have this opportunity to speak here, and amazing presentation. So we have one part that's a design side, and the other part was like, oh my God, just going from the data source to filters and to the calculation. So this was amazing. So you can write like a kind of like instructions, like a check marks for a dashboard. So this was amazing. So I have the presentation, so I'll send it over like to everyone interested, and this is amazing. So please, guys, just make sure that follow our guys like speakers and search for them on LinkedIn, X, or Tableau Public. Follow them, see what else they are doing on Tableau Public, and of course, like Tableau Public is free, so you can just download it, and it's really easy. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. So thank you so much, and you guys have a great day. I don't want to steal too much time from your lunch. Yeah, I mean, like it's lunch, it's over, but anyway.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Adrian. Thank you,
Okay.
entire
Thank you,
team.
guys.
Thanks, Adrian. Thanks, everyone.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye. I'm just gonna wait until most of the people exit. So I don't know, like Ryan, are you guys okay? I mean, like Kawori, maybe we should go
Don't
for a
forget
lunch
to
or
stop
somewhere.
recording as well.
Yeah, I could cut it after. Yeah, I can cut it after.